We might bring in the Insiders host, Barrie Cassidy, now from Melbourne. Barrie, I understand you've got some information out of the caucus meeting.
Yes, just some information on the speeches as they were delivered after the vote was taken. As you would expect, there was a lot of talk about unity and putting all this behind them, of course, and focusing on winning the next election. A couple of things, though, were really interesting in terms of what Kevin Rudd contributed in his speech. He told the members that he'd bear no grudges or carry no malice against those who voted against him. Now that amused some of the members in the caucus, because they thought, well, given the strength of his numbers, why would it matter for one? But why was there a need to say that he would carry no grudges? The second contribution that he made was, and this was the real jaw-dropper, I think, for some of the caucus members, when he said that he would support Julia Gillard against any third candidate. Now, here you are, sort of the whole scenario now for the government and the Labor Party is to put behind them any talk of leadership challenges into the future, and Kevin Rudd rather mischievously says that he would support Julia Gillard against a third candidate. So it just gives you a sense of the sort of environment that we're living in at the moment.
Why do you think you'd offer that up, Barrie? What's the thought behind that, do you think?
Well, according to the person that told me of this, that it was mischief making. That's the way that they saw it. That to even raise, to put into the marketplace this prospect that a third candidate, okay, you've seen me off, but he then talks about the prospect of a third candidate emerging into the future. I think it's something that'll be worthwhile hearing from Kevin Rudd about when finally he holds a news conference. But it is a bit of an insight into just how bitter the relationships are within the Labor Party, and just how difficult it's going to be just to erase the slate and get on with life as normal.
Yeah, because with all this talk about unity, that would seem to indicate that maybe that isn't going to be an easy road ahead.
And the third candidate issue too, I think, is interesting in itself, because I think the numbers 71-31 are overwhelming, and certainly I think it's fair to say it puts Kevin Rudd's ambitions not on hold, but should have raised them. And you would think equally such numbers would remove any genuine or serious consideration about a third candidate arising, even if the opinion polls were not to improve over the next 6 months. But what this clearly says is if the polls deteriorate or don't get any better, then maybe 6 months from now we'll be revisiting the whole thing again. That's the implied message that comes through from what Kevin Rudd had to say.
And a third candidate really was always a function of the Rudd-Gillard rivalry, wasn't it? That if things were so intractable between them, and that perhaps only a third candidate would offer any sort of third air. It's hard to see a third candidate actually self-starting and coming in as a challenger.
No, the logic behind the third candidate was that even if the feeling within the caucus is there's such resentment and such hatred for Kevin Rudd that there's no way that they would ever elect him, that the anyone but Rudd camp was the majority, and therefore Julia Gillard was not getting necessarily an overwhelming personal endorsement. What she was getting was this anyone but Rudd vote, and therefore it was thought that if this didn't resolve matters, then at some point they might then look for the third candidate, you know, whether it be Stephen Smith or Bill Shorten or whoever, and this sort of comment, I think, just keeps that alive.
Barrie, was there any word from your source about what Julia Gillard had to say?
Only that it was about unity, and what I didn't pick up was anything that she may have said about Kevin Rudd, but I'm sure by the end of the day we'll be fully informed on all of that.
Well, Barrie, thank you for bringing us those additional insights direct from inside the caucus room.